Coder, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about insertion sort. Insertion sort is a sorting algorithm that builds the final sorted array one element at a time. It compares the current element with each adjacent element. Insertion sort is a basic sorting algorithm. However, it's used in complex computer programs such as file search, data compression, and pathfinding. Insertion sort has an average and worst case runtime. The worst case time complexity is order of n squared. You can think of insertion sort as sorting a deck of cards. You may get asked this question in an interview. This algorithm builds on top of more complex algorithms, so you should definitely understand this algorithm at each step. Here, I have an array of integers 4, 2, 6, 8, 9, 10, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And in order to sort this array, I'm going to sort this array in ascending orders, and I'm going to use an inner for loop. So I'm going to create a for loop, and my inner for loop will be a while loop. So I'm going to create my for loop here, and I'm going to initialize it to 1, and we're going to iterate through the length of the array. I'm now going to create a temporary value. Okay, so I'm creating an integer value and I'm assigning it to the index 1, which is the index 1, which is 2. So this is going to be initialized to 2. And the reason why we're going to initialize this to 2 is because when we make our switch or swap, however you want to say it, we're going to initialize the index adjacent to it. So since 4 is greater than 2, the index at 1 will become 2. But before we initialize the index, we need to say that in a variable. So right now I create an integer variable called cur for current, and I am initializing that the value at index 1 to 2. So right now current is 2. Now I'm going to create my while loop, and I'm going to create my while loop and I'm going to initialize it to the start of my first loop. And the reason why I want to do that is because we are comparing adjacent indexes. So we're comparing 4 and 2. So I need to minus 1 here. So j is going to be equal to 0, and it's going to have a value of 4. Next, I'm going to create a condition. I'm going to create a while loop with the conditional statement. I'm going to say while j is greater than or equal to 0, and if index adjacent to it is greater than the index to the right of it, we need to swap those two elements. So right now, in our first iteration, j is equal to 0, but we need to swap the element at index 1. So the element at index 1, which is currently 2, will become 4. So I'll initialize that here, and then we're going to decrement j. So currently j is -1. Then the value that since this condition was true, we saved that value before we initialize it. So we initialize the value at index 1, we initialize it to 4, but we saved it before we initialize it to the current value. Now, when we decrement j, which is now going to be -1, we need to increment it. So, which is what I'm going to increment. I do j plus 1, and I'm going to initialize that to that value that we stored, which is 2 in this first iteration. So now I'm going to run this, and our array is sorted. Now I'm going to debug my algorithm So I'm going to click my debugger up here. And I'm going to set some breakpoints. I'll set 2 breakpoints, one here at the start of the loop and one at the end of the loop, which is on line 22. And I'm going to run this application again. Just give it some time here. So now our application is in debug mode, and I'm going to walk you through this first iteration so that you can see what's happening. So we'll use the step through function right here, and we're going to step through this array, and we're going to look at exactly what's happening at each iteration. So with the first iteration, you have a set of integers 4, 2, 6, 8, 9, 10, 1, 3, 5, and 7. So with the first iteration, we're going to we have an integer value, and we're going to assign it to 2. So as you can see here, the value cur is currently initialized to 2. Next, we're going to create our while loop, and we're going to start it. We're going to initialize it to the value of the first loop minus 1. So when we step through, j is equal to 0, and as you can see here in our first for loop, we initialize it to 1. Next, I'm going to create I have my conditional statement, and I have a while loop here, and we're going to step through this because the condition is true. If the condition was false, we would go directly we would skip this part right here, and we'll go directly to this. So now I'm going to step through. So now as you can see here, this is where I make the swap, because 4 is greater than 2, and we're going to initialize the index at 4. I'm sorry, at 2. The index at 0. The index at 1 is 2, and we're going to initialize that to 4. Then after that, we're going to decrement 0, which is going to be initialized to -1. So as you can see here, if you look at the array, the current array is 4, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And the value cur is initialized to 2 because we're going to assign that. We're going to initialize that for the index at 0. We're going to initialize that to the current value. As you can see here, I'm going to step through one more time. This is now false, and it's going to go to my next argument. Now you can see that the array says 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 1, 3, 5, and 7. So I'm going to step back out. So it doesn't allow me to step back out, but you kind of so each iteration this will continue to happen, and the array will be sorted. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube video. This is my first YouTube channel, so I will improve on these videos. Sorry about the audio. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you so much. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye bye.